Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of our Nuclear Revenge. In today's episode, ruined a marriage and my family for revenge. Hi Pooh Drifter. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Ruined a marriage and my family for revenge. I've always been the black sheep of the family. Cousins grew up to be doctors, professors, creatives and whatever else. Meanwhile, I've managed to just make a humble stable passive income through some business decisions, nothing fancy, but I can afford a one-bedroom in NYC and live comfortably with that and a part-time job in a cafe. Everyone in the family, including my own parents, judge me harshly for not pushing myself to do what my cousins do, especially my one cousin we will call Randy. Think the stereotypical dude bro who got rich thanks to working for his dad, multiply that by 10, and you got Randy. Anyway, he always gave me the most shit, and eventually I just tuned them out cause I get to enjoy my life with my work part-time and still afford what I want. So, to cut the bullsh T short, Randy has a wife and 2 kids, he also had a mistress. I found this out cause one day when I was walking through the city when I saw him walking down the street with a woman who clearly wasn't his wife, arms around each other. I checked Facebook and saw he had indeed posted about visiting a bagel shop in the city while on a business trip that morning, so we had indeed in the city. So, I decided FCK it, let me see how this plays out. I followed them for 5 hours, snapped several photos, one of them going into a hotel together. I held on to these and waited until Christmas that year, about 6 months later. I decided to unceremoniously drop printed photos in front of everyone at the table before dinner and made sure to get his wife to see them. Cue screaming and fighting, I actually got a black eye out of it. It was Randy's dad who did it though, not him. Cue police, a lot of questioning, my and I get kicked out, we head back home after talking to the cops one last time. The aftermath. Besides Randy's wife and another cousin who hates Randy, my family cut me off entirely for several years. Whatever, even my parents had always expressed disappointment in me for not applying myself fully, so no real loss there. Randy got divorced. Lost full custody of the kids after threatening his ex. Family occasionally tries to guilt me into apologizing, but my response is some variation of, not gonna apologize for outing a cheating cunt, and I'm promptly blocked for another few months. So and Randy's ex-wife are good friends and the kids call me Uncle Nick, having a family who actually loves me unconditionally for once. So when I got married, and that's when my family last tried to get into contact with me and were actually nice for once, seeing me moving on I guess eats at the midk. Maybe realizing their punching bag is gone for good. That's it really, living my best life now with a good family as opposed to a *T1. Edit, first, thanks for support and awards. Second, a bunch of y'all seem to think being abused is not traumatic or bad, as several comments seem to be saying, wow, you're a bad person for having a negative reaction to abuse and not handling it like a golden human being. So I'll clarify, the comments about my wasted potential weren't just, oh your cousin's a doctor, what about you? They were, I can't believe Randy just sealed a deal for X amount of dollars, are you still working at that shitty cafe? Are you still saying what's her name? The girl with the pudgy stomach? Aren't you ever gonna do anything with your life? I'd feel so worthless living like that. Those are the nicer ones. The worst ones include being told that it's better I didn't try as I wouldn't amount to anything and other such things along those lines, as I really don't care to remember the more toxic lines. I'm not interested in judgment. Go post on Ida threads if you want to say your piece about that, but don't tell me that I wasn't an abuse victim and wasn't treated horribly by my own family just cause I didn't spell out the nitty-gritty details. High Poo Drifter. Many years ago, while recovering from a brutal marriage, I was a struggling single parent putting myself through grad school on a small teaching associate stipend. I was able to rent a modest apartment within walking distance of the urban campus. It was part of a series of small 100-year-old brick townhouses, which I imagine were very nice in their day. Over the years, as old buildings do, it had settled, and the doors and windows were askew enough to be drafty. In the snowy winter, we applied plenty of shrink-wrap window cling. In the summer, the brick building was like an oven, with no central AC, and ventilation was necessary to stave off heat stroke. Despite the hardships, we were safe, and we were content. After a couple of years, though, this changed when a new dude moved into a nearby apartment. Because out of the scores of parking spaces behind the apartment block, he was assigned the parking space right behind mine. The guy was, apparently, an avid fan of the Fast and Furious franchise, having made various mods to his car in a vanity plate reading Drifter. He spent all of his free time working on this stupid car. But the idiot had clearly neglected the car's actual engine and exhaust system, because in order to drive the thing, he had to warm it up for 10 to 15 minutes before driving off. Every single time. And it wasn't regular car exhaust, it was billowing and extra rich and smelled like the gasoline wasn't fully burning off. As I mentioned in the beginning, the apartment was old and drafty. So every time he decided to drive his car, sometimes several times a day, he would first let it billow clouds of noxious exhaust fumes into nearby apartments, and right into my 4-year-old's bedroom. I tried everything to keep the fumes out, but to no avail. My child and I both felt ill, every time. This was hurting my kid. I couldn't afford to move. And I was out of ideas. Seeing that he was outside working on his car again, but without giving too many details about myself, I approached the guy and explained that the fumes were filling my apartment and making me ill, and politely asked if he would mind warming up his car farther away from the surrounding apartments. He sneered at me and said, "Well, I'm sorry, but not all of us are lucky enough to have mommy and daddy pay for their car and put them through college. I'm sorry that my car is not up to your standards, but I'm not moving it." Shocked, I walked off in a different direction than my apartment, so he wouldn't know exactly where I lived. By the time I got home, I was angry. Fuming. I knew some sort of formal complaint would likely go nowhere. Besides, it would be truly stupid to be the only person to do so right before whatever I was going to do next. I took some time to monitor his comings and goings and plan some proper consequences to fix the problem myself. The goal, to end the daily poisoning of my apartment and danger to my child, permanently. Budget, shoestring, of course, because I didn't have mommy and daddy to pay for my revenge budget. Skill level, low. The problem was the engine, and I had very little knowledge about how to quickly, quietly, and permanently disable an engine. I didn't know how to jimmy a lock, or open a locked gas cap, so I wouldn't be able to get access to the engine or gas tank. And no, I was not about to Google instructions. Time available, minutes at most. The parking lot was a very busy place, students came and went at all hours of the day and night, and sometimes just hung out there to party or set nearby dumpsters on fire. As much as I wanted to, I couldn't just douse the car in gasoline or set it on fire, because it was parked way too close to my apartment. Cosmetic damage wouldn't work. Slashing tires or breaking windows, while satisfying, could be too loud, and not permanent. And then, on reconnaissance day 2, I noticed it, His car was old enough to have little triangle windows for venting in the back windows, and he kept them open at night. The answer: I would fight fumes with fumes. The next day, I bought a cheap Gatorade squeeze bottle and some eggs. I made a yellow soup out of egg yolks and warm water to fill up the bottle about 2/3 full, then added some of the fresh dog poo that was always available next to the sidewalk outside. I screwed the cap onto the bottle and left it in the sun outside for several days, swirling it around from time to time. I waited for the early hours of a Tuesday morning, when the parking lot was the least busy, and snuck up to the car. The triangle windows were open. I popped the cap up, aimed it into the car, and sprayed days-old sun-baked rotten egg and dog poop soup over every available surface of the inside of his car, down the window wells, into the air conditioner vents, and soaking into crevices and upholstery. I tossed the Gatorade bottle of horror into the dumpster, went back inside, and went to sleep. The next day was a warm one. It was one of the great joys of my life to have been home that afternoon at just the right time to be startled by a man's voice screaming, "What?" I ran upstairs to the window he regularly fumigated, and through the blinds, watched the scene unfold. The dude had opened the driver's side door, and repeatedly moved his head closer to sniff and then gag, like he refused to believe the smell was coming from his car. He opened the other door to investigate. He kept yelling, "What?" And then he ran off. He came back a few minutes later wearing dishwashing gloves and carrying a stucco bucket full of sudsy water, a sponge, and a scrub brush. He spent the next half hour growling, holding his breath, bobbing his head into the car and scrubbing, pulling his head out to gag and scream, "What?" and taking deep breaths to go back in. The scrubbing and retching and screaming were increasingly interspersed with pounding on the dashboard and the roof, kicking his rims, and loudly vowing revenge at the sky. Within about 30 minutes, he was surrounded by about 10 other dudes standing in a wide half-circle around the car, some drinking beers, watching the show, laughing, and offering pointers, like King of the Hill come to life. It took him roughly an hour to realize that the battle had been lost. The dudes yelling became hoarse and whimpery. He retrieved his toolbox, removed a wrench, and started doing something new to the interior. He suddenly pulled out the entire driver's seat, walked away with it, and angrily heaved it into the dumpster. He did the same with the passenger seat. Then he took the bucket over and dumped the soapy poo soup water next to the dumpster, brought the bucket back to the car, turned it upside down, placed it where the driver's seat used to be, sat on it, and, *tu not, drove off that way. I never saw the car again. He never drove it back. That, and his pride, must have been a total loss. My greatest regret is that because smartphones didn't exist, I have no recording of that glorious day. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.